She's not reaching out, but you're still all she thinks about. Must watch Part 1. The Silence That Speaks Chapter 1. When words disappear, thoughts grow louder. The city of Rome was alive with chatter, music, and the clashing of merchants in the marketplace. Yet within all the noise, Lucius had discovered something more powerful than words: silence. Julia had not written to him in weeks, no messenger, no letter sealed with her familiar handwriting, no unexpected visit in the courtyard, where he often sat. For most men, this absence would have been unbearable. They would have searched, begged, or broken under the weight of not being chosen. But Lucius was not most men. He understood the paradox of desire. When words disappear, thoughts grow louder. Julia's silence was not empty, it was full. Every day she didn't reach out was another day she wrestled with her memories of him. She could run from his presence, but she could not escape the echo of his stillness. Chapter 2. The Stoic Realization. You don't chase Epictetus once said. If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Lucius understood this. When Julia pulled away, many thought he was weak for not pursuing her. His friends mocked. Write to her. Women forget quickly if you don't remind them. Show her you care otherwise. She will give her heart elsewhere. But Lucius only smiled. He knew what they did not. Chasing was never strength. Chasing was fear in disguise. By not reaching, he gave Julia the room to feel. By staying calm, he allowed attraction to breathe. His silence was not neglected, was mastery. Chapter 3. Why her mind stays where her heart once was. Julia's days were restless. Outwardly, she was fine. She smiled at others, attended gatherings, even entertained other men who tried to win her attention. But her heart betrayed her. When night fell and she lay awake in her chamber, her thoughts betrayed her silence. She thought of Lucius's calm eyes, his steady tone, the way he never argued to win, only to teach. She hated how he lingered in her mind. She hated how his absence felt louder than the presence of others. She hated how she couldn't let go. This was the silent chain between them. He was not reaching out, but he was all she thought about. Chapter 4. The First Rule of Desire. Stillness. Seneca once wrote, "He who is brave is free." Lucius lived by this. The bravery to not beg, the bravery to not break, the bravery to stay still. This stillness was not emptiness, it was power. Most men moved too quickly when emotions pulled at them. They chased at the first sign of withdrawal. They destroyed attraction by smothering it with fear. But Lucius knew, stillness draws more deeply than motion. And so, he let Julia feel the quiet weight of his absence. She thought she was escaping him by not reaching out, yet in truth, she was only binding herself tighter to his memory. Part 2. In her quiet nights. Chapter 5. Why she scrolls but doesn't call. Julia often sat by her writing desk, staring at the parchment and ink. The urge to write Lucius was strong, almost overwhelming, but her pride whispered, if he cared, he would have sent word first. And so, she scrolled through her memories instead. The way he looked at her when she spoke, the calm nods when he listened, the discipline in his movements, as though his soul had found rhythm with reason itself. She did not write, but she thought. She did not reach, but she remembered. And each moment of hesitation tied her deeper to him. Chapter 6. Dreams that bring you back night after night. Lucius appeared in her dreams. Not in grand gestures, not chasing, not pleading, but simply there. Sometimes he stood by the window, silent. Sometimes he walked past her in the garden. His presence felt stronger than words. Sometimes he looked at her with those eyes that seemed to see through her. She woke restless, angry with herself. Why him? Why now? Why do I dream of the one who does not chase? But this was the essence of longing. His silence was not a void, it was a mirror, reflecting her own yearning back at her. Chapter 7. The tug-of-war between ego and emotion. Every woman carries two forces within, ego and emotion. Julia's ego whispered, stay silent. Do not give him the satisfaction. Let him come to you. Her emotion whispered louder, reach out, tell him you miss him. End this torment. But she chose silence, and in doing so she only fed the fire of longing. Lucius, meanwhile, was unmoved. He went about his days, training his mind, reading Marcus Aurelius' Meditations, walking through the Forum without haste. He lived as if nothing was missing because he understood that nothing external could complete him. This balance made him unforgettable. Chapter 8. The lesson of distance. Distance reveals what presence often hides. When Julia was with Lucius, she took his calmness for granted. His strength felt ordinary, his wisdom familiar. But in his absence, those same traits became rare. She compared him to others, and none matched the quiet authority he carried so naturally. Now she understood the Stoic truth. Value is seen more clearly when it is no longer in reach. And though she still did not reach out, her thoughts belonged to him more than ever. Every night, in her quiet hours, she carried Lucius with her, uninvited, unforgettable. Part 3. The Stoic Path of Attraction. Chapter 9. The magnetism of self-control. Lucius had mastered what few men ever could. Self-control. He did not drink excessively, he did not gossip, he did not let his emotions drag him where they wished. His discipline gave him a kind of magnetism because what is rare always attracts. Julia sensed this deeply. She saw other men stumble over their desires, begging for her attention. trying to impress with borrowed charm. But Lucius, he needed nothing. He wanted nothing. He simply was. And that was why she could not forget him. Chapter 10. Why presence is more powerful than pursuit. The Stoics taught that presence, being firmly rooted in the moment, is stronger than pursuit. Lucius embodied this truth. When he was with Julia, he did not try to impress her with wealth, status, or flattery. He was simply present, listening fully, speaking only when needed, never forcing, never rushing. That presence carved itself into her memory. And now, in his absence, she replayed it endlessly. She compared every man she met to that standard. Each comparison left her disappointed. The memory of a man who is truly present lingers far longer than the chase of a man who is desperate. Chapter 11. The secret of Stoic mystery. There was another quality that gnawed at Julia's mind. Mystery. Lucius never gave everything at once. He was kind, but not overly eager. He was warm, but not clingy. He shared his thoughts, but he kept parts of his soul reserved, like a book whose final chapters no one could read. Mystery is the oxygen of attraction. The less he revealed, the more she longed to know. The more space he allowed, the more she leaned toward him and thought. His silence now was not emptiness. It was a puzzle she couldn't solve. And puzzles are addictive. Chapter 12. Freedom. The most attractive quality above all. Lucius was free. Free from need. Free from fear. Free from the desperate urge to be chosen. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "A man's worth is no greater than the worth of his ambitions." Lucius' ambitions were not bound by Julia. He did not live for her approval. His life was bigger than her presence. And that is what made him unforgettable. She realized this painful truth. She was not the center of his universe. And paradoxically, that's exactly what made him the center of hers. Part 4. The breaking point of silence. Chapter 13. The nights grow longer. Julia's silence had once felt like power. At first, she believed she was in control. By not reaching out, she thought she was the one dictating the game. But as the weeks passed, the silence shifted. What began as strength turned into weight. Each night stretched longer than the one before. Lucius did not come. Lucius did not call. Lucius did not break. And so, the quiet began to break her. Chapter 14. The mind becomes her enemy. In the stillness of night, the mind grows loud. Julia began to imagine scenarios. Was he with someone else? Had he already forgotten her? Did her absence mean nothing to him? The human mind, when left without answers, creates its own. And the ones it invents are often crueler than reality. Every imagined picture of Lucius with another woman tightened her chest. Every silence from him was like a reminder. You were never his center. But that pain only pulled her deeper into obsession. Chapter 15. The cracks in her pride. Pride is strong until longing outweighs it. Julia's friends noticed her distance. She smiled less, spoke less, and often drifted into thought mid-conversation. She denied it, of course. But internally, she knew the truth. Lucius occupied her mind more than anyone else. She reached for her quill one night. She even wrote the first word of a letter, Lucius, but stopped. She crumpled the parchment and tossed it away. Her pride was still alive. But it was cracking. Chapter 16. When silence becomes his victory. What Julia didn't know was that Lucius was not playing a game. His silence was not a tactic, it was simply his way of living. He understood this. If a bond is true, it will return without being chased. If it is not, no amount of chasing will make it real. By living his life unbothered, unmoved, Lucius achieved something greater than conquest. He allowed her own thoughts to become his strongest messenger. Every night, she imagined him. Day she measured other men against him. And though she never reached out, she was already his. Not through possession, not through pressure, but through the quiet power of Stoic presence. Part 5. The Return of Desire. Chapter 17. The letter she never sent. One night, after weeks of inner battle, Julia lit a single candle and sat at her desk. The house was quiet only. The crackle of the candle flame filled the room. She began, "To write again, Lucius? I don't know why I'm writing this. Perhaps I do. I miss the way silence felt full when you were near. I miss how you never needed to speak to be understood." Her words poured out like a confession. It wasn't a letter of blame. It was a letter of yearning, not for possession, but for connection, for the kind of presence only Lucius carried. When she finished, she read it thrice. Then, as before, she folded it, not to send, but to keep. Because sometimes writing to someone is not about them reading it. It's about admitting the truth to yourself. Chapter 18. When absence becomes presence. Julia noticed something strange. The more she avoided reaching out, the more Lucius appeared in her life, not physically, but in memory, in sensation, in comparison. She saw a man at the market. His voice reminded her of Lucius. She overheard a quote by Epictetus. It reminded her of something Lucius once said. She smelled sandalwood incense in a shop and it pulled her back into his presence like a whisper. He was everywhere now. His absence had not erased him. It had amplified him. Chapter 19. The Turning of the Tide. Finally, Julia reached the tipping point. It was midday, the sky soft with spring. She sat in the courtyard with her journal, staring at an empty page. She realized she had spent more energy avoiding him than it would take to simply speak to him. Her pride, though still present, had lost its sting. Her silence had become a burden, not a shield. She whispered to herself, "If I am thinking of him every day, perhaps it is not weakness, perhaps it is truth." And so she rose. She did not run. She did not panic. She simply made the decision, "I will go to him, not to win, not to beg, but to be honest." Chapter 20. The quiet before the meeting. Lucius, meanwhile, continued his life unshaken. He woke with the dawn, trained his body and mind, wrote in his journal, and walked through the marketplace without expectation. He thought of Julia, yes, but never with need, only with calm remembrance. On that same afternoon, as he returned from a long walk, he saw a figure waiting near the olive tree at the edge of the hill. Julia. She was not dressed to impress. Her hair was wind-tossed, her eyes were calm, but soft. They stood in silence for a moment, not awkward, just real. "Lucius, it's been some time." "Julia, and yet, you were never gone." No tears, no speeches. Just the quiet meeting of two souls who had learned something profound through distance. That love, when real, does not demand. It waits. That silence, when respected, becomes sacred. And that two people, when free, can choose each other not out of need, but out of truth. Chapter 2. Won a conversation without masks. They sat beneath the olive tree, where sunlight pierced through the branches, laying golden stripes across the earth. Julia spoke first. "Julia, I tried to stay silent. I thought silence would free me of you, but all it did was bind me closer. I thought of you every night." Lucius listened. He did not interrupt. His eyes held the same steadiness as the horizon. When she finished, he said softly, "Lucius, I never asked you to come. I never demanded your words, but here you are, and that is enough. No accusation, no pride, no bitterness. Only presence." Chapter 22. The power of unclinging. Julia studied him, wondering how he could be so still. "Julia, do you not care? Did you not miss me?" Lucius smiled faintly. "Lucius, I cared, but I did not cling. I missed, but I did not suffer, for what belongs to me in truth cannot be taken, and what does not, I was never meant to hold." Julia's heart shook not with sorrow, but with awakening. His words were not cold, they were freeing. He did not want to own her. He wanted to share life with her, freely chosen. Chapter 23. The bond reborn. That evening, they walked side by side through the winding path toward the city. The silence between them was not heavy, now it was full. The crowd in the marketplace bustled, yet it felt as though a calm space followed them wherever they went. Julia no longer wondered if she had lost him. She understood. She had never lost him, because he was never hers to keep. He was his own, and that made his presence a gift. Lucius, too, knew something had shifted. Attraction was no longer about possession, nor fear of absence. It was about the strength of two souls who had tested distance and returned by choice. Chapter 24. The Stoic truth. Months later, a friend asked Julia why she looked so serene, why she no longer fretted about who wrote, who called, who reached out first. Answered, "Because I learned that silence does not mean absence, and distance does not mean indifference. If a man is truly present in spirit, he is with you even when unseen, and if he is not, no amount of words can summon him." Lucius, journaling that same night, wrote, "To hold love lightly is to keep it pure. To demand nothing is to receive more than you imagined. She may not call, she may not write, but if she thinks of you every night, you are present enough." And so, the story closed, not with conquest, not with dramatic reunion, but with a deeper truth. Attraction is not about chase, and connection is not about control. And when you give her the space to think of you without forcing her hand, you become unforgettable.